Chaos in the National Football League,
College.
which didn't touch the chaos in college football.
Yeah.
Which, for me personally, didn't touch the chaos here with Baker Mayfield. Certainly, I don't speak for all Paisan here, but we're giving people, right? Pizza has 8 slices. We give. Pasta comes in truckloads. We give. But it's all in the wrists, Baker. Maybe the elbows. This is Daniel Bryan, what you're doing, which is awesome, yes! But it's just not Paisan. Let's go around the horn.
I love Baker Mayfield.
Let's start with the quote of the NFL weekend. I love being in that conversation. Saquon Barkley. Don't we all love being in the conversation? He's talking about the MVP conversation. He was asked about it after the game, but he said it's all about team and wins. However, 255 yards rushing and 302 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns and spearheading this Eagles surge to 9-2. Courtney Cronin around the horn to you, where Saquon fits in the MVP conversation that we're currently having, and this surge from Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't start out the show by muting Saquon Barkley for saying
Oh,
that.
it's his conversation.
I'm always skeptical, Tony, because of what happens when a non-quarterback enters the MVP mix, whether it was Derrick Henry in 2020, we saw it with J.J. Watt a couple of years ago, and even Christian McCaffrey last year. But I actually think that the McCaffrey case, him finishing number 2 in MVP voting in 2023, and where the NFL's going right now with their running backs, you saw it without McCaffrey in San Francisco. What Derrick Henry is doing for the Baltimore Ravens and what Saquon Barkley is doing, taking a good team and making them great in Philadelphia. 2 games now where he's outgained his opponents. We haven't seen a running back do that since Matt Forte did it with the Bears in 2010. And despite the fact that this is an Eagles team that relies so much on their running game, they have the lowest pass rate in the NFL. They are the most efficient running game by EPA per run. And this is a team that doesn't have a Hall of Fame center like they did with Jason Kelce last year. Their EPA per run is actually up this year because Saquon Barkley is powering this offense. He deserves to be in the mix. I do not believe he'll end up winning because I still think that this award skews quarterback heavy and it'll be Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, but he certainly is proving a very worthy case.
Parse through some of the great words you had there. It's the fact that the Eagles look like a better team this year. They got better, and the big acquisition was Saquon Barkley. Bill Plaschke.
Absolutely.
Where do you stand on Barkley's season and the Eagles season?
Well, Courtney, you're my MVP for working Matt Forte into an answer. That was good
Yes,
job.
but he
Good
didn't win
job on
MVP.
that.
All right, please, go ahead.
Sean McVay said after the game that Saquon Barkley's having an MVP type of season. If Sean McVay can say it, I can say it.
Okay.
They lost 6 of the last 7 games last year. They were dead in the water. One big change was Saquon Barkley. He's changed everything. He had the most rushing yards since 2009. He has over 500 yards from scrimmage in 2 games. That's the most since Walter Payton. He has a chance to break Eric Dickerson's 40-year-old record. All these records he's breaking, and he's changing the team. The team is the best team in the NFL right now, and it's because of him.
So you're buying it as well, it sounds like. Because I hadn't heard it until this weekend. Now he's not just in the mix. You're buying him as MVP. Bill Barnwell around the horn to you.
Yeah, he belongs in the conversation. If he runs for over 2,000 yards, which he's on pace to do, he is going to be in that conversation at the end of the season. But for a running back to outperform a quarterback here, you have to have a perfect resume. You have to lead your team to a division title, which Saquon can do. But he has had games this year where there have been moments where he's cost the Eagles. Remember that drop early in the season on 3rd down against the Falcons, where a catch would have won them the game. He dropped the football. Falcons came back and won that game. Against the Jags this year, fumbled away a touchdown that got the Jags back in the game, slid down early on a play, and then gave the Jags an opportunity to get the ball back with a chance to win the game. I think the Eagles' defense is being left out of this conversation. They are number 1 in football by every defensive metric I can find since the bye. Saquon is awesome. He is playing world-class football. But this is not just Saquon. This is a team effort.
Pablo Torre around the horn to you.
You know, the place I agree with Bill Barnwell is where I disagree with Plaschke. Because Plaschke is saying, Sean McVay said it, we can say it. If somebody ran for 255 yards on me, Tony, I'd be saying that guy was Paul Bunyan. that dude was shooting lightning out of his ear holes. Yeah, okay, his memory, yes, will be permanently scarred by this game forever. I understand his photographic memory. It'll be that. Cool. He'll be there in that Hall of Fame. But for me, what we're really talking about here is the story of Saquon being the best among all the candidates, right? So I believe that Bill Barnwell is right. It's probably going to be Josh Allen. Josh Allen, who has control of that entire offense, who is touching the ball in every single play. That logically feels like where this is going to land. But in terms of a story where the New York Giants, Tony, not just outrushing the Rams, he outscored and outperformed offensive yardage-wise the team that let him go on videotape in a reality show.
That's
so in terms of whom I'm rooting for, would love
that's a great part
Saquon.
of the story.
I don't
His
think
rise as the team that let him go down. Derrick Henry may be the most valuable running back this season as well. There's a conversation to have for that. But real quick, Bill, on how real the Eagles are. You mentioned how good defensively they've been for the last 2 months. A lot of those games were against Cleveland and against the Giants and against yesterday against the Rams. Please.
Defense is playing phenomenal. They can obviously run the football effectively. Jalen Hurts is protecting the football on offense. This is a very sustainable formula for them.
Flashkey, last word.
Barkley had 213 yards before contact. The Eagles' offensive line is unbelievable, and that's part of this equation.
We've been horned. We'll move on. Let's talk about the beautiful chaos in college this weekend. They were supposed to be calm this weekend. This was not calm. Indiana and Army throttled from the ranks of undefeated. Maybe that was forecastable to some. Not to you, Bill Plaschke. You got both those games so wrong, and now you pay the price for that. The losses for Alabama and Mississippi and Texas A&M in the SEC, that was a bloodbath. Georgia now has clinched a spot in their championship game, but it took a while to get past UMass. Penn State, Boise barely got through. Colorado laid an egg, but the whole chaos of the weekend perfectly encapsulated by the Big 12, which is bonkers, and the end of Arizona State BYU, which was more than bonkers. They had a throw out the clock mishap. Then the goalposts were taken down because they thought they won, but they had to put them back up. The Sun Devils fans got a little bit crazy. The BYU Hail Mary was close. Arizona State by the skin of their teeth. All right, Plaschke, you're at -10 right now, but what are you seeing as the most beautiful part of this beautiful chaos?
Oh, so beautiful. My Big Ten is going to get 4 teams in the playoffs. And it is my, Tony, come on, it's my Big Ten. Come on.
We're not doing that.
And the SEC is only going to get 3 teams in there. This shows the Big Ten is much better than the SEC. The SEC, everybody says, well, they cannibalize each other. Well, it was mediocre teams getting beaten by bad teams. Oklahoma beat Alabama. Oklahoma hadn't beaten an FBS team since September. And Florida's sort of fired its coach, and they beat Ole Miss. Those teams, those 3 lost teams don't deserve to be in there. The Big Ten deserves to have 4 teams in there ahead of the SEC.
Gordy Cronin around the horn of you.
I think it was actually me who said the SEC was
Yes.
cannibalizing each other on last week's show. But, for all the SEC bashing of Indiana that happened the last 2 weeks going into this Ohio State game, first and foremost, Ohio State is not the bar in which teams are decided to either make the college football playoff or not make the college football playoff. That's not making excuses for why Indiana, my alma mater, lost, but that's just putting it out there. On top of the fact that 3 top 15 SEC teams lost this week, Alabama didn't even muster a touchdown against an Oklahoma team that had not had an FBS win since they beat Auburn on September 28th. So I don't want to hear any argument from anybody in the southeast region of this country trying to make a case that a 3-loss SEC team is worth being in the college football playoff over Indiana. That's why you play the games. Hypotheticals do not matter. You know why? Because Alabama was favored by 13.5 points going into that game.
No.
What happened?
I love that you play the games, and that's
24-3.
why you play the games, specifically about Indiana, your alma mater. A 3-touchdown loss. You believe their resume for the playoff is sound and not even thinking about it after what happened this weekend?
10-0 start. The committee has had them in every single ranking up until this point. They have left you breadcrumbs along the way. They go and beat Purdue this week. They are in.
Pablo Torre, around the horn of you.
Yeah, I mean, there are 12 teams, right? Indiana, I feel like, is safely in the field right now. And I think that the larger picture of what did I find beautiful, it's that a bunch of students storming the field early, which happened twice at 2 separate occasions, feels like a metaphor for everybody talking about college football this season. Like, there's just so much parity, so much mediocrity that it's so unpredictable now. And again, Tony, this is sort of a theme, if you're drinking at home, like maybe this is blackout drunk time. anyone can win this season. And it really does feel that way. And I think that the cushion of 12 teams just means, yes, Courtney Cronin's Indiana Hoosiers will be around to prove that very theorem.
It may have been 4 o'clock in the afternoon when they lost, and you're thinking maybe they're out, and then everybody else follows suit and loses. Bill Barnwell around the horn to you.
Yeah, I think 10,000 Arizona State fans storming the field twice might have been blackout drunk time for some of the people in that audience. I feel like the Waste Management Open was taking notes on how to get so many Arizona State University students off the field at one time. That was the game of the weekend. That was the chaos we love with college football, not just of what happened at the end, but what happened before that. BYU was down 21-3, got back in the game, had the opportunity to take the lead with a wide open receiver for a touchdown pass, missed the throw. Retzlaff throws a pick on the next play. Arizona State gets the ball back deep in BYU territory, can score a touchdown. What happens next? They decide just to not try and score. They take crazy sacks, end up with a 4th and goal on the 49-yard line. 4th and goal from the 49. They try to throw the ball away, and then everything else happens. That's why we watch college football.
Bill Barnwell with the game recap there, the full play-by-play. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, the Big 12, bonkers right now. Man, I mean, it's not as good as the SEC and the Big Ten. That's fine. They have 8 teams that are in play right now to still play for the conference championship with 1 week to go. Taking a break. Buy or sell on the other side.
What words today would you use to describe this loss?
Soft as we play soft, and they beat the out of us today.
Fast.
Giants players Malik Neighbors, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Burns. Meanwhile, Brian Daboll today.
Yeah, look, we have good communication.
Well, that remains to be seen. Let's have some communication here, Pablo, on what to buy and what to sell from the New York Football Giants today.
Yeah, I buy the degree of difficulty that it takes to be the worst New York area football team in 2020. It is a remarkable thing that we are just weeks after declaring the New York Jets to be the Superfund site, talking about how unbelievably unsolvable this dilemma is. And you're right, look, if you're Brian Daboll, maybe the only thing you have left is the premise of communication. The bad news is I believe he will be communicating on behalf of another team, if any, soon enough. This seems all very logical and predictable. It's only a matter of time before that dude's out of it.
Bill Barnwell, this is the team that demoted and then released their starting quarterback, who they previously paid $108 million to. And then the performance you saw yesterday versus Tampa to lose at home by 4 touchdowns. And then those words, please.
I buy that this is a group of players who don't believe in the people running this football team. In part because they got to see what their decisions were on television on Hard Knocks earlier this offseason. It's not just getting rid of Daniel Jones. It's not just getting rid of Saquon Barkley. But they also let Xavier McKinney go this offseason, their star safety who leads the league in interceptions for the Green Bay Packers. If you don't trust that the right people are coming into the locker room and you're putting your body on the line every week, you're going to have the reactions the Giants did on Sunday.
Bill Plaschke?
Neighbors said, take a look, it ain't the quarterback, end quote. Well, if it ain't the quarterback, it's the coach. The head coach is gone for sure. The GM's probably gone. And again, I agree with Bill, it goes back to the Hard Knocks. Will any team ever be on a Hard Knocks again during the offseason? Because they all saw how they lost the future MVP of the NFL. Walked right out the door. Terrible.
Courtney Cronin.
You can't blame the players for feeling this way because they know it's not going to get any better, because it was John Mara himself who said earlier this season that nothing would happen, no changes. He didn't anticipate any changes happening this offseason. And do we actually know who made the call on Daniel Jones? Like, I'm still very confused about this. Did actual football people do this, or did the man who was so concerned about losing the popularity of Saquon Barkley, wanting a popular player with the fans and Tommy DeVito to go from QB3 to QB1, surpassing the backup in Drew Lock in the process? This whole thing is just an organizational failure. It's a game of Street Fighter between the Jets and the New York Giants, who determine who's more inept at doing their jobs, and this is not something that is going to be cleaned up anytime soon. It's on the coaching staff, it's on the front office, and frankly,
You're
Tony,
referencing Joe Shane there, the GM.
Joe Shane, yeah. I mean, there needs to be a clean house, top to bottom.
Is there any value? Can you understand a coach saying, I let the guys vent, we talked it out the day after, we're in a good place? Is that any way to go about this? No one's buying that. All right. Well, I think in credit.
He had to talk to Malik Neighbors
They were
2
bad
times
players.
about this. Once was not enough.
All right. We'll move on. Buy or sell
Very,
two.
very
Dallas
bad.
34, Washington 26. This game was asleep until the fourth quarter and then went into night terror mode. Associated Press. Austin Seibert choked back tears, taking responsibility for missing the extra point that would have tied the score in the final minutes. Jeremy Reeves choked back tears, blaming himself for a missed assignment that led to a kickoff return for a touchdown. John Bates choked back tears, talking about moving forward from his costly fumble. A lot of tears, a lot of choking, and the onside kick returned for a touchdown, which is like when you forget your phone is in your back pocket and you go to use the toilet, kerplunk. Bill Plaschke, what do you buy, what do you sell from this one?
I'm buying that all this madness at the end of the game. It was really the story of the game was Jaden Daniels, and the first 3 quarters threw for 84 yards. Under pressure, the last 2 games, 24% completion, one of the worst. He was the best in the NFL the first 9 games. Something's going on with the quarterback, and if the quarterback had this thing fixed, this never would have happened at the end of the game.
Something wrong, you mean physically, because his ribs have been bothering him for over a
Yes.
month? Or do you mean that the film is out
Physically,
and the
his
league
line.
is now defending him differently?
It's all those things. I'm watching Bo Nix get better in Denver, and Jane Daniels get worse in Washington.
Courtney Cronin, around the horn to you.
I, too, am buying a regression from Jaden Daniels because the first 9 weeks of the season, you saw he had the best QBR against pressure in the NFL. 2 interceptions yesterday against pressure, 5 of 21 under duress the last 3 games. There's something happening here, and it's not injury related. The only thing that you can justifiably say is likely due to injury is the fact that Austin Seibert had a hip injury that kept him out the previous 2 games, and then he has the 2 missed kicks yesterday, the missed extra points, and then the missed field goal as well.
Daniels did finish strong and get them back into position before that missed kick. Pablo Torre, what did you see?
Yeah, I'm buying Jaden Daniels stock if we're selling it at a discount at this point. We're an extra point away and 96% accuracy rate kick away from having a very different conversation. What I'm also, by the way, buying is that we are in a league, we're watching a league right now full of mediocrity and parity, but also just super high on spectacle. 31 points, Tone, in 3 minutes to end that game is unreal, let alone the how specifically of 86 yards followed by missed extra point. Just insane.
Bill Barnwell.
Yeah, I believe the Commander should have gone for 2 to win the game in that situation. Austin Seibert
This
already
is a
missed
take
2
I was
kicks
wondering if anybody was
earlier.
going to make.
This
Are-
is very
is this
reasonable. Austin
hindsight
Seibert
speaking,
missed
Bill?
2 kicks. No, Austin Seibert had missed 2 kicks up to that point. He was coming off a hip injury that had cost him 2 weeks. The strength of your team is still Jaden Daniels and that run game. And by the way, the Cowboys just allowed a touchdown in that situation. Nobody had allowed a touchdown in that spot since 2000, under 40 seconds, having to go to length of the field with no timeouts. The Cowboys were shell-shocked. That's the exact situation where your team should be going for it on offense. The Cowboys would have been terrified had they gone for 2. Instead, they missed the extra point, ends up not even being a close game in the long run.
And real quick, Bill, on Daniels, do you believe there is a rookie wall or whatever words you want to use to describe it, or just
It's been some tougher defenses. I think he was playing some pretty easy defenses earlier in the year. But I really think this team is still pretty good on offense. They did score 26 points in this game, right? Like, they still got there on the long run.
that Dallas defense
cost them the
holding
game.
them to 26 is one of the season highlights in recent time. That's not a great defense, but that's still enough to advance for Barnwell. Bill, Courtney, thank you for your time today. Pablo Torre, Bill Barnwell, that's our showdown next. Kansas City 30, Carolina 27. Another last-second win for the champs. That's 5 last-second, last play of the game wins. And this came against Carolina. Pablo Torre, Bill Barnwell, good luck to showdown. Somebody's winning this one in the last second. But what to make of these wins for Kansas City, Bobby?
Yeah, this is 8 wins decided by a score or less, but even more worrisome, far more worrisome, is the fact that the Chiefs are 3rd in point differential in their own division. So they can do it, but they're really tempting fate.
Bill Barnwell?
The same old Chiefs. Bryce Young is the story here. Left for dead earlier this year, 11 of 14, 135 and a touchdown against the Blitz.
Wow, ordering off menu. Left for dead by you, Bill Barnwell, on this very show. We'll move on. Showdown 2, the longest win streak in the country, snapped in a beatdown. UCLA 77, South Carolina 62. Bruins, a wave of mutilation. That's how South Carolina's 43-game win streak ends. And today, The new AP poll, #1, the UCLA Bruins for the first time in school history. Bill, have you come to praise the victors or memorialize that South Carolina streak?
Praising the Bruins. They led this tape-to-tape, start-to-finish. Not a single lead for South Carolina all game.
Pablo?
Yeah, look, the story heading into the season was USC. They were supposed to be a new dynasty, Juju Watkins, all of that. UCLA is just categorically better. I praise them to that even higher level.
#1 team in the country for first time in school history. And #1 to FaceTime right now, Pablo Torre.
So, if you know this show, you know that I love doing the show with Bill Plaschke because while the guy's a Hall of Famer, he has terrible takes. But this week, it is time to remind America there is one take that Bill is absolutely dead on, 100% correct about. There is only one true cranberry sauce. It comes out of a can. It is not pomegranate-y and full of berries and nuts or whatever else he put in it. It is ribbed for Bill's pleasure. You know it when you see it. It is glorious.
With the grooves in it.
Treat
The
yourself.
expiration on that FaceTime is longer than the
yourself.
expiration on the can, which is 100 years, by the way.